how woke DEI games have ruined gaming and made it better. After all the hit pieces I've wrote about Suicide Squad Kill Justice League, I'm pretty sure you guys know which way I lean on this subject. And I'm going to talk about it anyway. For the last 10 plus years, there have been lots of failed games, layoffs, and closed down studios. And for the last 10 plus years, there have been a big push for more live service and woke DEI filled games. A coincidence? I think not. Now, I know some people are rolling their eyes because I use the words woke and DEI, but it's important to talk about because forced diversity is not diversity at all. For example, if I were to tell woke DEI pushers that I wanted to make a game starring a strong, independent character, at first they would be happy about it. Then they would be ticked off that if I suggested that it should be a white woman or a man. Why? Because that's not diverse to them. But that is actual diversity. And so are hot girls of all sizes. Why can't we have big girls and small girls as playable characters in these universes? In these woke DEI games? Why do they all have to be mediums with no curves? Also, why do they all have to be human? Why can't we have aliens and anthros and monsters? That is the why these games fail. There's no variety with characters or story. It's always an approved female with a weird victim's well-pressed story. Those characters and stories are okay, but there is more than those kinds of things in games. In Final Fantasy VI, you play as a group of heroes who are trying to stop a guy from taking over the world. That's just like many of those woke DI action games they like to make nowadays. The difference is, eventually, the villain wins. He gets to take over the world. You continue playing the game, but you have to live with that failure. Would the woke DEI pushers make a game like that? I don't know. It would have a problematic message for them in their eyes, but it would be more like real life. Interesting how that works. They may try to justify their creative choices by saying games are a fantasy, and if they do, just ask them, if that's the case, then why can't the women in your games look like we want them to? They'll probably say that it's problematic, but the real reason is that it's their fantasy, not ours. Now there's the issue. I have no problem with people making video games based on their fantasies, but when they try to force that stuff on everyone else, that's when it really is problematic. When you say, you guys should make it this way, or will say bad things about your game and your company, that's forcing them to make games the way you want them to be made. That's not diverse. Okay, I kind of went off on a tangent there. I'm supposed to talk about how woke DEI has ruined games and made them better. I guess I got a good start on how that stuff has ruined games. It takes away creativity and diversity and forces wildly different groups of people to make the same corporate stuff. It's all about checking boxes and trying not to offend anyone. Newsflash, it is impossible to not offend anyone. By making your game filled with androgynous she-males instead of women who have breasts and curves, you offend us people who want to see awesome women in our games. It's like you are lying about being diverse. Every woke DI field game I've seen has ugly, emaciated, big-chinned and big-jawed women in them. Yet the men look fine. It's such a double standard. Here's a tip for all you woke DEI field development studios. If you prefer to make men the focal point of your games, then don't include women, or at least sideline them. Some games are boy stories and others are girl stories. Though in Warhammer Space Marine 2, the heroes of the story are Space Marines, and according to the lore, all Space Marines are men, people born with penises and testicles. The woke DEI pushers don't like this because it's not fair, but that's the lore. On the other hand, Stellar Blade is a great game where the most powerful monster fighter is a woman. And you think that those pro-women woke DI pushers would love that, but they hate it because she is beautiful. Woke DI seems to have jealousy involved in it. Every single game with a beautiful woman in it that has come out lately has been criticized by these people for being harmful to women, and yet games like Black Myth Wukong are criticized because women aren't the main focus. You got to make up your mind, people. And you've got to do a better job of trying to fix this and make games that feature males that are dressed as women. Now, let's get into one of the worst things the woke DEI trend has done. The destruction of several studios and the ruination of several once successful franchises. To effect the changes they want and to attempt to get a totalitarian iron grip on gaming, woke DEI pushers have invented an abomination called narrative consultant companies. These scammers have slithered out of many places. Ubisoft, foreign governments, our own government, and many other places that should not have anything to do with games. Once they were established, they started trying to take over studios. They promised them things like government funding and that the modern audience will replace the core audience they lost. they would lose once they started making games that they like. And several out-of-touch CEOs and marketing departments fell for it. And more often than not, the new game fails and the studio that made it gets gutted and those staff members have to find new jobs. The reputation of the studio is ruined, and the talent that made the games that put the studio on the map are gone. Chances of recovery are possible, but they will have to work really hard to get back on top. Not with remakes of old games. That is a dangerous trap for a studio like that. The people that made those games are gone. If you try to make that same game again, you will fail. We fans of the original game will pick apart everything you do differently. Your best bet is to start making new games, just like Sonic Team did when they made Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Team made Sonic 2006. Arguably one of the worst Sonic games ever made. Arguably one of the worst games ever made. They had a similar situation to Rocksteady's. A lot of people left, and the ones that stayed made a bad game. You know what they did afterward? They made a new game. They took things back to basics, but added a few new twists. Yes, the Werehog was hated on, but it was new, and so was Sonic's daytime control scheme. That style became known as Boost to Win gameplay, and it was awesome. So awesome, in fact, that it was used again in Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Forces. The success of making new games after a failure like that can't be underestimated. Sure, there were some missteps, but overall, things have gotten better for them. Rocksteady needs to do the same, and so do all other game studios that have had issues, like that. Also, they need to fire those loser consulting companies. They got them into this mess in the first place. This is how woke DEI stuff is ruining games. And how have they made things better? By showing people how bad they can make games. Game Science, creators of Black Myth Wukong, were approached by Sleep Baby Incorporated. They said they could help them with their game for $7 million. The devs of Game Science politely declined their offer. And to be honest, I would have too. They would have turned the game into Black Girl Wukong and would have failed, just like all the other Super games. By declining their offer, they were able to make the game they wanted, and it was a smashing success. Sure, rumors started circulating that the devs were racist and sexist, but the game was still a hit. Ironically, woke DEI stuff helped make that game better, successful. Helped make that game successful. A similar thing happened to Stellar Blade. The game came out and made a lot of money. In fact, the boss of the studio even bought PS5s for some of his staff so that they could play the game too. Well, that's got to come down to work for. Anyway, the main issue woke DEI pushers have with this game is that the main character, Eve, looks like a woman, a very beautiful woman, and you could dress her in some sexy outfits, or as a mascot if you wanted. Now that is out on PC, I have seen mods of her, pregnant mods, and a Homer Simpson costume, among others. It's strange how the pro-choice crowd is against choice. And they were so mad she was hot. Someone said whoever made her has probably never seen a real woman. Right before the news came out that Eve was based on the skin of a real woman. So they had to change their tune. They still said she wore a lot of stupid, sexy outfits, though. I've got to make a Homer and Flanders meme about that sometime. Eve would be like, it feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. One of her hottest outfits. The point is that resisting the woke DEI trend, games can be successful. They may not win any awards or get any good critic scores, but they will win where it counts. Now, which would you prefer? Looking good in front of the woke DEI crowd? Getting stuffed with awards, but getting no sales and having to shut down your studio? Or looking bad in front of the woke DEI crowd, getting almost no awards, but being able to stay in business and make more games, even able to do a little extra, like be able to buy your staff PS5s. I know which one I choose. I hear webcomics, and I don't understand why it's not as easy of a choice from some studios as it was for me.